Discover 8 sinister encounters with haunted black-eyed kids in Appalachia. The truth revealed. Caleb had thought that relocating to the secluded farmhouse in the Appalachian foothills would be a fresh start, a way to escape the darkness that clung to him since Sarah's death. But the charm of the countryside quickly faded, replaced by a growing unease. From the absolute quiet of the woods came whispers, tales of the black-eyed kids. They were just stories, he told himself, but the longer they stayed, the more disturbing things became. On their first night, shadows danced against the windows. Caleb chalked it up to fatigue. The kids, Asher and Ellie, explored the yard, delight in their eyes, unaware of the tale that hung in the air like a dense fog. But the whispers, oh, they were there too. Tongues that certainly knew their name. Don't leave the house at night, folks said, if you see them, don't let them in. Just tales. Perhaps. But the knot of dread in his stomach betrayed him. Days turned into restless nights. Fleeting glances through the corner of his eye, a chill crawling down his spine. Reassurances about the house's insulation didn't soothe his nerves, rather they heightened them. Must be the old wood, he insisted, as he hammered nails into the rickety porch. Then one evening, a light knock echoed through the twilight, snapping him from his thoughts. Caleb glanced at the door, his heart racing. A subtle warning crept into the back of his mind like an insistent echo. Asher and Ellie turned to him, curiosity dancing on their faces. It was too soft, too innocent, but every fiber of Caleb knew better. Peering through the peephole, 2 children stood on the porch, their dark eyes void of life, skin pallid as moonlight. "We need help, please," they said in chorus, voices smooth and almost hypnotic. "Our car broke down." The words sent icy fingers crawling up his spine. They didn't just want help, they needed to be let in. Just as his late wife had warned, never invite in strangers. Heart pounding, Caleb wrestled with the panic surging within him. "Where are your parents?" he found himself asking, voice trembling. But the answer never came. Just those chilling smiles and their almost too white teeth glimmering under the porch light. "Let us in." They said it again, voices weaving together in an ominous chant. "No." He spat before slamming the door shut, breath hitching. He leaned against the door, the wood feeling like a fragile barrier against something dark. In that quiet, he glanced at his kids, safety hung in the balance. Was that it? Was it over? For now, anyway. But sleep would not come easy. The children's voices haunted him, and the next days stretched into nightmares, shadows swirling around him like a storm. Every creak of the floorboards felt like whispers. The town's folk always hinted at stories best left buried, and it was becoming clearer to Caleb these black-eyed kids weren't just a myth, they were a warning. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Each night grew darker as the children drifted off to sleep while he lay awake, visions of the pitch-black eyes haunting him. They were connected to the land, to this house, and the town's sinister history dug deep like roots in the soil. Caleb could feel the pull of something more than just fear, more than just the stories. It felt like a curse creeping. As his resolve faltered, Caleb ventured into the woods, desperate for answers. He stumbled upon a gathering of the townsfolk, murmuring about lost souls and secrets buried. Were they protecting something? And was he simply digging his own grave by staying? The stakes were rising, and the dark truth of the farmhouse clawed at his sanity. Just when he thought he'd fight, he returned home, every bone in his body alive with dread. Only then did the deafening knock rally at the door again, and he froze. What awaited him on the other side? Caleb's heart hammered in his chest, drowning out the soft rustle of leaves outside. The knock echoed, louder this time, more insistent. It felt like the door was pulsing with malevolent energy, begging him to submit. He swallowed hard, every instinct screaming to run, to hide, but his children remained in the next room, blissfully unaware of the horror lurking just outside. That he took a deep breath, hands trembling as he reached for the doorknob. "It's just kids," he muttered under his breath, forcing himself back to reasoning. Just kids who need help. But even in the dark corner of his mind, that logic crumbled under the weight of dread. Images flashed Sarah's pale face, her warning that had slipped into memory like an echo never let them in. The knock came again, more demanding. "Let us in," the voices sang, crawling through the door like smoke. Time slowed, and for a heartbeat, he imagined the children outside, their black eyes glistening with unholy hunger. He could see them, grinning wide, waiting. Caleb pulled away, chest heaving. "What do you want?" His voice came out hoarse, almost pleading. "We said we need help." The words hung in the air, sinister yet sweet, they wrapped around him like a spider's web. Each syllable dripped with an intangible promise, an allure. His resolve was waning, the door feeling less like a barrier and more like a fragile dream. Caleb rushed to the window, yanking the curtain aside. The porch light illuminated the two children, but instead of pale, innocent faces, he saw shadows shifting, the light bending around them, creating a distortion that didn't belong. Panic surged through him, a primal urge to protect his young ones blossoming like a fire in his gut. That he turned, sprinting through the narrow hallway, pushing the door to the kids' room wide open. "Asher! Ellie!" His voice sliced through their sleep, their eyes blinking up at him, confusion and fear mingling together. "We need to go. Now." "What's wrong, Dad?" Ellie yawned, but Caleb didn't have time for questions. He gathered them close, their small bodies warm against his side. "Just trust me. We can't stay here." He moved toward the back door, the old wood creaking under the shift of weight. Every second felt like an eternity, the shadows pressing closer. The whispers echoing their names, his name. The chill in the air sent goosebumps racing down his arms, but then, just before they reached the back door, he froze. The knock at the front door transformed into a series of rhythmic thuds, reverberating through the walls like a heartbeat. It morphed into an unsettling chant echoing off the very timber of the house. "Let us in, let us in." Caleb's breath hitched, an animal instinct clawing at his throat. He turned back to the window, heart hammering, and there they stood, two figures, but now surrounded by more children. The shadows had multiplied, their black eyes glinting with a shared hunger. "Where are your parents?" he howled, desperate. The darkness outside closed in. Caleb felt the weight of 1,000 stories pressing down on him, closing off all escape routes. Asher whimpered, gripping his arm tightly, and Ellie's eyes mirrored fear. "Please," came the chorus, echoing, mere inches away, parts of a nightmare come alive. "Let us in." Caleb took a step back, the chill engulfing him. The children, they weren't looking for help. They were looking for something more sinister. But what did they want? As he stood trembling, stuck between the front door and the back exit, a low growl echoed from the woods behind the farmhouse. A deeper darkness loomed, promising things worse than the children at the door. The lights flickered, and in that brief moment of uncertainty, he knew he had to make a choice or risk losing everything. Would he protect his kids and face the shadows, or take the chance and run? Just as the decision crystallized in his mind, the doorframe trembled, and one of the children stepped forward into the light, its voice slicing through the dread. "We're coming for you." What awaited him now? The air thickened with an electric charge as Caleb's mind raced. Panic gripped him, squeezing his chest tighter, making it hard to breathe. "We're coming for you," echoed in his mind, a taunting promise that wrestled against his instincts to flee. "Dad!" Asher tugged on his shirt, pleading, wide-eyed. "What are we gonna do?" Caleb glanced between the front door, shaking with the pounding insistence outside, and the back door, his only apparent escape. The walls felt as if they were closing in, the shadows outside whispering secrets dark enough to chill his soul. "Shoo, stay close," he hissed, urgency flooding his voice as he crouched low, guiding his children toward the back of the house. The moment felt surreal. Time stretched like a loaded bowstring, ready to snap. He felt their warmth against him, their trust and anchor amidst the chaos. Outside, the children's chant grew louder, an otherworldly hymn that rattled the bones of the old farmhouse. "Let us in." A sudden crash erupted from the front door, rattling the frames. Something had given way. Caleb's heart skipped a beat. "We have to go, now." He pushed through the back door and into the yard, the cool night air smacking into him like a slap. The moon hung low and full, casting pale light across the darkness but offering no comfort against the creeping dread. Behind him, the sound of frantic footsteps, soft, quick, whispered like a ghost in the night. He turned just in time to see the figures spilling out from the house, their dark forms gliding through the shadows like vapor. There were more now, dozens, swirling around the porch like wraiths hungry for something more. His instincts screamed to run, but he couldn't panic. Not right now. "See on, kids." He waved his arms, directing Asher and Ellie toward the tree line, their home becoming a distant nightmare. Each desperate step felt like they were moving through molasses, the shadows lurking just out of sight but too close for comfort. Caleb could hear them now giggling, chortling, like they were sharing a dark joke. "You can't hide, Caleb." A child's voice called, the innocence twisted into something grotesque. The trees loomed ahead, silhouettes reaching toward the sky in gnarled fingers. Freedom was just beyond, he could almost taste it. His breath quickened as they dashed toward the cover of the woods, but something made him hesitate. He glanced back, the figures were no longer just children, they were shifting, morphed into something foreign, something wrong. Their eyes, voids of darkness, stared back at him, unblinking and soulless. Then, one of them broke away from the group, sprinting towards him, its feet barely touching the ground. Caleb's heart thundered in his ears. "Run!" he screamed, shoving Asher and Ellie forward as the shadows gained ground, the laughter turning to high-pitched wails that tore into the night like a siren's song. They sprinted into the underbrush, branches clawing at his skin. The forest was alive with noises, scurrying creatures, the rustle of leaves, the howl of wind, somehow both a sanctuary and a trap. The shadows were relentless, whispering promises of despair that coiled around his mind like a serpent rattling its warning. As he plunged deeper into the woods, pulling his terrified children with him, an eerie silence fell. The laughter faded but was replaced by something worse, a gust of cold air that carried a faint voice, so close that it felt as if it dripped right into his ears. Where never far behind his blood ran cold as the weight of realization crashed over him. They weren't just at his door, they were everywhere. They had been watching, waiting, and somehow, they knew his name. Caleb turned to look at his kids, only to find their faces pale, eyes wide with horror as they whispered the words that stole his breath. "Dad, they're right behind us." What twisted fate awaited them now as the darkness surged? Caleb's pulse thundered in his ears as he shoved Asher and Ellie ahead of him. The shadows were closing in, their whispers becoming a chorus of taunts that slithered into his thoughts. He could feel their presence behind him, like a thick fog creeping over his skin. "Faster!" he urged, the words barely making it past the clenching in his throat. The underbrush seemed to grab at his legs, thorns tearing into his flesh, but he didn't dare look back. They had to keep moving, there was no other choice. The trees formed a looming wall around them, twisted and jagged, draped in darkness. Even the moon seemed to hide from the terror unfolding beneath its gaze. Caleb could feel his instincts honed, a primal urge to survive coursing through him. But a gnawing dread twisted in his stomach. What would happen if they didn't escape? What awaited them in the endless woods? They broke through the thicket and into a small clearing illuminated by the moonlight, revealing an ancient stone well. It was overgrown with weeds, stones partially cracked and weathered with time. "Stay here," Caleb commanded, pushing the kids behind him as the laughter surged again, wild and unhinged. As he leaned against the well, breathing in gasps, Caleb's thoughts churned. What were these things? No longer mere shadows of children, they seemed to carry an essence that seeped into the air, the stench of decay mixed with something sweetly sinister. "Dad, I'm scared. Asher's voice wavered, fear pooling in his big eyes. Me too, buddy, he whispered, forcing a smile. But we'll be okay. The soothing words felt like a frail shield against the cold, dark reality looming over them. He cast a glance behind. The figures were no longer hastily chasing, they stood still, an eerie silence falling over them. The remnants of their ghastly laughter hung in the air like a bad omen. Suddenly, without warning, the children's voices swirled into a blood-curdling chant. Let us out, Caleb. Let us out. The plea was thick with desperation, sending chills coursing through his veins. These were the voices of his children, only twisted and distorted, nothing left of the innocent giggle he treasured. His heart hammered. Ellie, Asher, listen to me. We cannot listen to them. He pressed his hands to his head, fighting the suffocating madness. The darkness wrapped around him, thickening like fog, stealing his breath. Caleb, a voice crept through the air, soft and silky, choking him with its familiarity. He turned, fighting the urge to respond. Do you really think you can run forever? Waves of dread rolled over him. Shadows flickered before his eyes, the wraith-like figures now morphing into horrifying depictions of his darkest fears, his children screaming, twisted and trapped. He couldn't let them win. Not now, not ever. Run! He shouted again, determination flooding his veins. As they broke into motion, Caleb suddenly felt the weight inside his pocket. The old compass he had found earlier that day, its needle spinning madly, indifferent to the wind. What's that, Dad? Ellie asked, her voice barely a whisper. Stay close. And don't look back. He gripped the compass tightly, desperation clawing at him. He could almost feel the darkness reaching closer, an icy breath against his neck. Together they dashed toward the edge of the clearing, breathless and desperate. As the figures began to close in around them, a sudden thought pierced his muddled mind, maybe there was a way to turn the tide. But just as Caleb prepared to make his next move, a ghostly wail echoed through the trees, freezing him in place. It was a sound of pure anguish that seemed to rend the very fabric of the night. It didn't come from behind them. It came from ahead. Caleb! Whispered a familiar voice, one that twisted his stomach in knots. He looked up, dread settling heavily, as the shadows parted, revealing an even darker presence lurking ahead. Who sat waiting just beyond the darkness? What kind of fate awaited them now? Caleb's heart plummeted as he recognized that voice. It was a melody of despair, one that should have been music but now sounded like a dirge, a call from the shadowy realm of sorrow. The air thickened, a chilled weight pressing upon him like a dark cloud, heavy with inevitability. Stay behind me! He shouted, terror gripping every syllable. The figures flickered back, their laughter morphing into a raucous symphony, mocking him, taunting him as if daring him to take a step closer. Caleb! Help me! The voice drifted closer, like fog swirling around his legs. Each word wrapped around his heart like an iron vice. It was too familiar, too real. Ellie! Asher! In that moment of panic, he glanced down at his children, their faces pale and drawn. They were caught in the crossfire of wanton fear, staring up at him wide-eyed. Don't listen to them. We need to go. But Ellie's gaze drifted past him, drawn to the shadow now outlined in the moonlight. A figure slowly emerged, a silhouette adorned with familiar traits: long hair, tattered clothes, a face half hidden in darkness. It was enough to make him choke on his breath. No. It can't be. He stepped back, confusion flooding him. Mom. Mommy. Asher whispered, confusion welling in his innocent eyes. The specter twisted toward Caleb, the air crackling with an energy he only could describe as sorrowful regret. Caleb, she crooned, her voice dripping with a sickening sweetness, each inflection a dagger into his chest. Why do you run from me? I just want to help. His voice trembled, anger bubbling under his skin. You're not here. You're gone. Oh, but I can be here. I can help you if you just let me in. Her smile was haunting, a mixture of warmth and chilling emptiness. Behind him, the shadows hissed. The laughter echoed louder, a chaotic symphony that twisted into whispers impure and vile. Let her in. Let her in. She's waiting. No. Caleb screamed. He couldn't have this. Not again. He wouldn't lose them. He couldn't let the darkness claim his family. The compass burned against his palm, its needle spinning violently, helpless against the grip of the malevolence around them. Hold on. He shouted, gripping it tightly, feeling the warmth of his children just behind him. Trust the light, echoed in his mind a strange voice, unfamiliar yet eerily confident. And in that moment, a flicker of resolve ignited within him. Ellie, Asher, close your eyes. He took a step forward, brandishing the compass like a torch against the darkness. He muttered something, a prayer, a chant, anything that could hold back the insidious tide. As he thrust the compass toward the specter, the shadows recoiled, shrieking in a cacophony of anguished voices. They pressed against the edges of his vision, swirling like a storm about to swallow him whole. But the figure of his mother began to falter, a distortion rippling across her enchanting face. The light one protect you forever, she hissed, her voice a shattering echo in the dreadful night. You can't escape your fate. The clearing erupted in frantic chaos, voices overlapping, shadows retreating and lunging, as Caleb wrestled with his own desperation. He had to choose. Dive deeper into the darkness or push through to salvation. With one last surge of courage, he turned to his children, hold on tight. As the ground trembled beneath their feet and the air thickened, the haunting faces began to shimmer into grotesque forms. He saw twisted smiles stretching wide, empty eyes that swallowed the hope. And suddenly, before Caleb could comprehend, the darkness surged forward like a wave, intent on drowning everything in its abyss. What would happen next? Would they emerge or be consumed? The fight for survival was only just beginning. Caleb's grip on the compass tightened as the chilling wave of darkness crashed toward them. Time slowed, and the air felt electric, every second stretching like taut rubber before snapping. A haunting scream pierced the chaos, reverberating from the shadows, a cruel reminder of what was at stake. No! He shouted, instinctively pulling his children closer. The shadows clawed at them, a swirling mass of despair and torment. He could feel Ellie shudder against him, her breath quickening, and Asher's small frame trembled. This was more than a battle of light against shadow, it was a fight for the very essence of their souls. That he thrust the compass into the darkness, its warmth pulsing with a vibrancy that momentarily stilled the encroaching night. The shadows recoiled, but Caleb knew it wouldn't last. We need to move, he yelled, though his voice quivered with uncertainty as he turned them away from the lurking shapes that in the dim moonlight. The clearing shifted, trees contorted, forming twisted, gnarled figures that seemed to extend their limbs toward the family. Each creak of branches echoed like a warning, a sinister counsel from the forest. They ran, the world becoming a blur of color and shadow as fear fueled their flight. Daddy! Ellie cried, looking over her shoulder. Mommy's still there. With a sudden, cruel burst of laughter, the specter shimmered again behind them, her eyes glowing like dark coals, full of sorrow, full of hunger. You can't hide, Caleb. The voice turned syrupy sweet, you're part of me. You'll always be part of me. It was a haunting promise that sent a jolt of ice through his veins. Don't look back. He barked, his breath coming in ragged gasps. Panic pushed him forward as the compass pulsed in time with his racing heart. Each step felt heavier than the last, like he was dragging the weight of their fate behind him. Ahead, the shadows shifted again. They lined the path, forming a barricade of grinning faces, young and old, their eyes as dark as the void that threatened to encircle them. Caleb's stomach turned. He'd heard rumors about entities like these before, whispers of cursed beings, the so-called black-eyed children who roamed at twilight, claiming innocence in exchange for something far worse. He'd never believed in those tales until now. Ellie, Asher, stay close. He shouted, trying to drown out the hushed chorus of the wraiths. Whatever you do, don't engage with them. But it was too late. Shadows flickered and twisted, rushing forward to fill the spaces between. Caleb's heart raced as he felt the breath of something cold brush against his neck. Panic grasped him, but he pushed forward, knowing failure meant losing everything. The compass sputtered in his hand, flickering from warmth to an unsettling chill. No, no, no. He could barely keep his voice steady. This was not the light he had hoped for, it was a warning, a sign of the encroaching dread. Desperation blurred his vision as he spotted an old stone well nestled among the trees ahead, an outlier in the endless gloom. There. Head for the well. He urged. As they raced toward their only hope, whispers slithered through the air like venomous serpents. Let us in, each voice a promise of despair wrapped in false comfort. Caleb felt their presence close behind, the darkness pressing into his back, a swarm of grief threatening to suffocate them. The well seemed to pulse with an ancient energy, a heartbeat synchronized with the rush of their impending fate. Just as they reached the edge of the clearing, a figure darted toward them from the shadows, a child with inky black eyes, a face eerily familiar. It held a hand out, beckoning, smiling when it should have screamed. Join us forever. Caleb froze. The pull of her gaze was magnetic and terrifying. His breath caught in his throat, and panic surged anew. He had to make a choice. The darkness was closing in, and the light was flickering. The future of his family depended on what he would do next. With the shadows closing in behind him and a childlike smirk taunting him from ahead, Caleb felt time freeze. What would he sacrifice to keep the darkness at bay? And as a chilling laugh echoed around them, he realized they were about to discover something much worse than losing themselves. Caleb's heart thundered against his ribs as he faced the child at the edge of the clearing. The darkness swirled like a living thing, trying to wrap around him and drag him into its depths. Memories of his wife flooded his mind, a visceral reminder of what he had to protect. But this child, with those black, soulless eyes, felt like a twisted reflection of his own daughter. Ellie, don't look at her. He barked, pulling his daughter closer, his grip vice-like around her small shoulder. But Ellie's gaze was already caught. Her eyes widened, entranced. Daddy, she's pretty. No. She's not. Caleb shouted, panic tightening his throat. He could hear the echo of the laughter still ringing in his ears, taunting, promising doom. We have to go. The girl grinned wider, teeth glinting in the fleeting light. You can't run from who you are. Join us, we're family. Her voice dripped with a dark sweetness, a siren-esque call to hopelessness. Asher whimpered, instinctively clutching his father's leg. The discomfort in Caleb's chest sharpened. He couldn't let his children consider the offer. Run! He yelled, wading through the thickening air and dragging them along. They tore past the well, where shadows twisted eagerly at the edges, whispering secrets that clawed at the mind. Each step resonated like a drum, beating a desperate rhythm, urging them onward before the collapsing reality could swallow them whole. Look! Caleb pointed to a path veiled in foliage, partly lit by a thin ribbon of moonlight. This way. They broke through the underbrush, the trees closing in around them like prison bars. Every shadow shifted and writhed, daring them to look back. The child still lingered, a dark specter on the edge of his vision. What if she follows us? Ellie gasped, her breath moving like a quivering leaf in the wind. She can't. Caleb didn't get to finish. From the tree lean, more figures emerged, all familiar yet wrong, each with those haunting black eyes. He recognized neighbors, friends, ghosts from his past life, drawn into the shadows. They beckoned, voices overlapping in a symphony of despair. Join us, come back. Caleb's mind spun. He fought the urge to listen, to yield to the chaos of their charming despair. We're not going back. He shouted into the growing night. The more he resisted, the tighter the air became, pressing down on him like a heavy cloak. The compass in his hand flared again, dimly illuminating their surroundings, and he felt a momentary flicker of hope. Hold on to this. Caleb urged, trying to show his children. It'll guide us out. We find the light. But the shadows swirled once more, diving at them like liquid smoke, filling their lungs with dread. Caleb's vision blurred. Panic clawed at his throat, the familiar faces danced with malicious delight. He turned and ran, praying their footsteps could echo in a different story. They stumbled through the dense thicket, each step sending shockwaves of fatigue and fear racing through them. Yet the darkness seeped through every crack in their armor, relentless and consuming, then silence. The whispers paused, the air thick with an almost tangible tension. Caleb hadn't realized they had reached another clearing, the moon now a cold, indifferent eye above them. Before them stood a decrepit cabin, walls coated with decay and shadows swirling around it, a twisted mouth grinning wide in mockery. "Approach," a voice crooned, deep and melodious, resonating through the air as if the very structure had become alive. There's no escape from truth. Caleb felt an icy surge through his veins. They had walked into the lair of despair. The cabin wasn't a refuge, it was a trap. Through the darkened windows, looming figures watched, those same black eyes filled with wicked expectation. The door creaked open slowly, revealing twisted, crooked shapes waiting impatiently. "Do we go in?" Asher quaked, clutching his sister. Caleb hesitated, fear twisting his gut. He glanced back, the stillness of the forest echoing with malevolence. "What choice do we have?" No sooner had he said it than he felt the deep pull of darkness. Sinister and inviting, wash over him. They were not just running toward escape, they were being beckoned closer to the edge of the abyss. With hearts pounding, Caleb gathered the last flickers of courage. "Stay close," he commanded, stepping forward even as fate loomed before them, a shadowy realization of their greatest fears lived out, and as the shadows whispered sweetly, promising salvation or doom, Caleb knew, the battle for his family's souls had just begun. What would it take to step through that door, he wondered, as the black-eyed whispers swirled around him, coaxing them ever closer. The moment Caleb stepped onto the cabin's threshold, he was engulfed by a suffocating atmosphere, thick like syrup, wrapping around him with a sense of foreboding. The door creaked ominously behind them, slamming shut with a finality that echoed through the hollow space. A single bulb overhead flickered, casting erratic shadows that morphed quickly into grotesque shapes, flickering in and out like the memories he tried so desperately to cling to. "Daddy," Ellie whispered, her voice trembling, as if she could feel the dread saturating the air. Caleb pulled her closer, his heart racing in rhythm with a primal instinct screaming at him to flee. But the inner voice of survival clashed with chilling curiosity. What lay inside? The recollections of what once was mingled with the unmistakable scent of rot and dampness, urging him deeper into the gloom. "Listen," he said, his voice cracking under the weight of uncertainty. "We stick together. We don't let this place take us." The words felt hollow even as they left his lips. Shapes loomed near, gnarled and twisted, as if carved from the same darkness that surrounded them. They moved with unsettling grace, tilting their heads, their black eyes glistening with that same familiar hunger. A low whisper resonated, an echo of the words they'd heard outside, seamlessly threading through the air. "Join us, be one of us." Caleb clenched his fists, the desire to scream fighting against a deeper instinct to stay silent. "We're not joining you," he shouted defiantly, though he could feel doubt gnawing at his resolve. "Denial only prolongs the inevitable." The voice came from an apparition in the corner, her body woven from shadows, lips curling in a smile that suggested she knew all his secrets. "You forgot us, Caleb. You left us to languish. It's time to return." Images flickered in his mind, friends lost, the laughter of children gone cold, the haunting memories of nights without sleep, each one a jagged shard of grief. "You're not real," he insisted, though part of him felt as if he were peeling the layers off his own sanity. "Yet here we are." Another figure stepped forward, a familiar face twisted in grotesque glee. Caleb's blood ran cold. "You can save them, you know. All of them. Just say yes." Asher whimpered louder, pulling at Caleb's leg. "Daddy, I'm scared. I don't like it here." Caleb's world began to tilt, nausea spiraling at the edges of his mind. "Listen to me. We're leaving." The urgency propelled him toward the back door, hoping to find a way out. He could feel the pressure building, walls closing in around him, the oppressive weight almost visceral, but then the whispers surged, loud and chaotic, drowning out his thoughts. Join us, he grabbed Ellie and Asher, eyes wild, adrenaline surging. No. We're not staying. He lunged for the door, the wood splintering under the pressure of desperation. Before his hand could grip the knob, shaking fingers reached for him, pulling him back into the depths of paranoia. Faces swirled, friendly yet twisted, their eyes black holes swallowing hope. You don't understand, Caleb. You already belong here. With a fierce yell, he wrenched himself free and pushed against the door, flinging it wide open. A sudden gust of wind battered them, a raw breath of the outside world. Shadows shrieked, clawing at their backs, desperately trying to drag them back into the abyss. Run! He shouted, adrenaline pumping. They bolted into the night, away from the suffocating darkness of the cabin, the whispers fading behind them but not gone. Yet as they stumbled back into the forest, Caleb felt something shift in the very air. Shadowy figures lingered at the edges of the trees, always watching. Daddy, are they still here? Ellie cried out, the terror stark on her face. I don't know, he replied, fear gnawing, something told him this wasn't over. Then the ground rumbled beneath their feet, a low growl reverberating through the earth. Caleb turned to see the door of the cabin slipping back into the building, sealing with a shudder. With it, the whispers returned, softer but persistent, sucking at his mind with promises of reunion. You can never escape, we will always be family. In the distance, the forest trembled, alive with hushed murmurs, each tree a witness, each shadow an ever-present reminder lurking just beyond his vision. The air turned heavy, thick with anticipation, as a chilling realization settled in. Where do we go now? Asher's small voice trembled, small against the dark backdrop that seemed to loom ever larger. Caleb took a deep breath as dread surged again, twisting deeper. We keep moving, but even as he spoke, he felt doubt creeping in. Was there really a way out of this nightmare, or was the darkness slowly closing in? Above them, thunder rolled, a warning echoing through the trees. And just as the storm broke, Caleb spotted it, a flicker of movement, something darker than night lurking just beyond their sight. What's that? Ellie gasped, her tiny hand trembling in his. Caleb's breath hitched. Whatever lay ahead, the road was painted in uncertainty. Would they face the shadows directly, or would the darkness choose them? Filled with dread, he realized, they were not alone. As they pressed forward, Caleb couldn't shake the feeling that whatever they faced next, it would reshape everything they thought they knew about fear, family, and the horrors that awaited just beyond the light. Caleb's heart raced as the darkness seemed to come alive around them. The murmurs in the trees intensified, a menacing chorus spilling out secrets only the shadows understood. He grasped tighter onto Ellie's and Asher's hands, pulling them close, his mind racing through terrifying possibilities. Just keep moving, he murmured, though he felt the words slip into a void of hopelessness. They stumbled further into the woods, branches snagging at their clothes and skin, scraping against their faces like fingers reaching out from the blackness. Each step felt heavy, as if the ground itself was trying to hold them back. Thunder rumbled again above, but it sounded distant now, like a growl from deep in the earth. The moonlight flickered in and out as clouds raced across the sky, casting hurried shadows that danced among the trees. Caleb glanced back. The cabin had disappeared behind a shroud of mist, but that didn't lessen the feeling of being hunted. What if they follow us? Asher whimpered, his tiny voice quaking, eyes wide with fear. Then we run faster, Caleb replied, though he felt a cold knot of doubt hardening in his gut. He turned forward again, searching for a sign, an escape route, anything to help them get out of this place. But, at that moment, the shadows shifted. From the corner of his eye, he caught sight of movement, a figure gliding silently between the trees. Panic gripped him, and he yanked the kids closer. Stay close, he hissed, setting his jaw as he steeled himself. Daddy, I see it. Ellie squeaked, trembling, her finger pointing towards a clearing just ahead. What is it? Caleb didn't want to look, but he forced himself. There, swaying slightly in the wind, was a wooden sign, barely visible through the thick fog. Hollow Creek, it read, the paint peeling and faded, as if long abandoned by time. Is that where we are? Asher asked, fear threading his voice. It's where we need to be careful, Caleb replied, taking a deep breath to suppress the rising dread. He was acutely aware of how the trees seemed to bow closer, as if listening to their conversation, eager to consume them. As they stepped into the clearing, the air changed, a thick, sweet scent filled their nostrils, masking the rot that had prevailed earlier. Caleb could feel his adrenaline spike. This wasn't right. Above them, wispy clouds parted briefly to reveal a glistening crescent moon, casting eerie shadows that intertwined with the encroaching night. He caught sight of something out of the corner of his eye, figures flickering like candles on the edge of the clearing. Caleb squinted, and his stomach dropped. They were children, pale-faced and grinning, all with the same deep, empty black eyes. Join us, one of them whispered, voice melodic yet hollow, sending a shiver crawling up Caleb's spine. We don't want to play, Caleb barked, fighting the magnetic pull in those eyes. We just want to leave. Ellie clutched his leg, as if understanding the true depth of horror reflected back at them from those soulless stares. Daddy, I'm scared. Hold on tight, he whispered softly, forcing himself to take a step back. It felt like a mistake, like they were stepping away from safety and into a dark abyss. The children danced forward, drifting closer beside the trees like shadows entwined with the night. Caleb could hear their laughter now, light and airy, but edged with something chilling. Don't you want to join us? They chimed in eerie harmony, laughter spiraling into unsettling whispers. Stay back. Caleb shouted, fear electrified his bloodstream. The last thing he remembered was the unearthly laughter amplifying into an echo, a final taunt as the world around them darkened. Then everything went black. When Caleb opened his eyes again, he lay on the damp forest floor, the chill seeping into his bones. Ellie and Asher were nowhere in sight. Had they disappeared into the darkness? Ellie. His voice cut through the silence, but no one answered. Panic surged as he shot to his feet, heart hammering against his ribs like a frightened bird. The trees loomed overhead, whispering secrets of their own as Caleb spun in desperate circles, calling out for his children, and then he heard it, the laughter again, ringing out through the night. But this time, it wasn't just a sound, it was a call, an invitation, a promise. Join us. A dread slithered down his spine as Caleb knew, they were not finished with him yet. In the distance, branches snapped, something was moving toward him. Where are you? He shouted, stepping back into the shadows, heart racing anew. Would he find his children, or would they be lost to the whisper of the woods forever? The night deepened, thick with dread, as Caleb braced himself for whatever awaited him in the dark. Caleb's heart raced as he fumbled through the forest, every shadow threatening to consume him whole. He called out, voice strained and raw, Ellie. Asher. But the only response was the distant laughter, echoing like a nightmare come to life, steeped in malice. It surrounded him, weaving through the trees and curling around his mind, tugging at memories he wished to forget. Join us. The whisper echoed closer, as if beckoning him deeper into the darkness. Caleb trembled but refused to let the fear take hold. He was made of stronger stuff than that. He had his children to find. Each faint glimmer of moonlight stabbed through the branches like a beacon of hope, but it quickly faded into a shroud of suffocating shadows. The forest seemed to close in, the trees whispering secrets he didn't want to hear. Panic clawed at the edges of his sanity. No. I won't join you. Suddenly, a rustle nearby made him jerk around. Dad. It was Ellie's voice, small yet soaked in fear. He squinted into the murky darkness, and for a dizzying moment, he thought he saw her standing with arms outstretched, shadowed figures swirling around her. Ellie. Daddy, help. The voice trembled in the air, threading through the fear like a lifeline. His heart surged with determination and dread as he tore through the bramble toward that desperate sound. Just hold on. I'm coming. His voice surged, fueled by primal energy as he shoved aside the thickets. Memories of joy, laughter, and the indistinct whispers floated through the chaos, mingling agony and hope. Then something collided with him cold. He stumbled back, eyes wide. There they were, dozens of children with obsidian eyes, blocking his escape. They flickered in the dim moonlight like flames dancing in a haunting ritual. "Join us, be part of the family," the promise dripped from their lips, sweet yet chilling. "No!" Caleb shouted, desperation lodging in his throat. "You're not my family." He felt a surge, brushing past the children as they hissed like snakes, their smiles twisting into grotesque masks of innocence. He burst into a clearing, more lost than ever, yet driven by the memory of Ellie's laughter. "Ellie!" He shouted again, terror lacing his voice as he spun around. "Hide and seek, forever." Echoed through the darkness, the words leaping at him like shadows hungry for a taste of despair. Caleb's breath quickened, fear clawing at his insides as he scanned the dimly lit perimeter of the clearing. Suddenly, he saw a glimmer near the base of a massive oak tree. "Ellie!" He lunged forward, and there she was, crouched and trembling. The sight of her ignited a fire in his chest. "Daddy!" Her eyes were wide, tears streaking her face. She stumbled toward him, and he scooped her close, relief flooding over him like a bomb. "Where's Asher?" He gasped, panic settling back in. "I don't know. They took him." She cried, voice trembling. A bone-chilling laugh erupted around them, the children closing in like a trap slowly tightening. "He's ours now. Join us or lose him forever." They taunted, their chants swirling around, dark promises whispering. Caleb gripped Ellie tighter, rage sparking in his veins. "No." He raised the compass, its needle spinning furiously, a little light breaking through the thick weave of night. "You don't control us." The shadows shrieked, recoiling from the light as if burned. For a brief moment, he felt power surge through him, a glimmering barrier pushed back against the children of the dark. "Let him go. I'll fight you." Determination coursed through him, solidifying his resolve. Then the laughter stilled, replaced by a sound that curled into a dark silence, shadows pulsing rhythmically like a heartbeat. "You can't win, Caleb," a familiar voice reverberated from the depth of shadows. "Join us. You know you want to be with your family." Caleb's chest tightened, but he clenched his jaw harder. "No. I'm not giving up on my son." A sudden rush, a flurry of shadows surged toward them, and he felt Ellie shake in his arms. With a strike of pure instinct, he lunged to the right, darting toward the other side of the clearing, pulling Ellie along as they raced past the roiling darkness. He could feel it reaching for them, like fingers grasping toward his vulnerable mind. "Daddy, they're coming!" Ellie sobbed. "Then we run faster," he shouted, pushing them into a sprint. They danced through trees and bushes, a wild escape fueled by pure survival. The laughter transformed into furious screams, wailing into the night air. An eerie echo bounced off the trees, growing fainter but ever present as they continued. Caleb took a breath, his heart racing, and pushed them harder. "Stay close. We can't look back." Suddenly, daylight broke through the trees. He could see it, faint flickers of dawn creeping over the horizon, hope climbing back like the light of a new day. He felt Ellie's grip harden as they broke through the thicket, the warmth of the sun pouring over them like a refreshing drink after a long drought. The laughter faded to the distance, turning into whining echoes, as if the night was recoiling back into its hidden corners. "Daddy! We made it!" Ellie exclaimed, relief radiating through her small frame. He drops to his knees, hugging her tight as the morning light sparkled on their skin, washing away the night's horror, but the battle wasn't over. Caleb knew that as long as they were near Hollow Creek, the shadows would linger, watching from the edges. He glanced back into the woods where darkness loomed, the weight of 1,000 whispers still pulsing like a distant heartbeat. "We're safe now," he asserted, though the chill in his bones resisted. Catching his breath, he looked deep into Ellie's eyes. But we need to keep moving. Promise me, no matter what we hear, we stick together. Okay? No matter what. I promise, Daddy, she whispered, determination sparkling amid tears. Caleb took her hand, scanning the tree line one last time, a vow echoing through him. He wouldn't let the shadows take them. He would shield them against that darkness with every breath he had left. As they stepped away from the murk of Hollow Creek, the shadows faded, leaving only the soft whisper of the trees in the morning light. But he knew the truth, darkness always lingers close, waiting for the moment of weakness. Let us go home, he murmured, grasping Ellie's hand tighter as they forged ahead, ready to confront the next chapter of their lives, together. Some battles may be won, but the war was far from over, and with hope leaping in his chest, Caleb vowed to fight until the very end. So if you enjoyed this intense journey, you need to subscribe to the channel now for more exclusive stories like this one. Smash that like button to feed the algorithm. We want to hear your thoughts. Flood the comments with your reactions and theories about this wild ending. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to experience this conclusion. This is the moment to show your support for the channel.